Well, well, well. Look who comes crawling back. Come join me. The water's fine.
I never left. I am always alongside behind before you. I simply made my presence known to you.
I may be less than enchanted with this stage of the work, but I know it's important.
You are doing the thing. Again.
Whoa! I'm defending you!
No! You are pissing me off!
But I just don't want things to get even worse!
Then stop pretending that my feelings are top priority, and try being honest for once.
So let's drag that imperious corporate bitch down from her airship and reintroduce a little normalcy.
Sir, yes, sir.
Alrighty, Magus, you are the boss.
Ma'am, yes, ma'am.
That is not cute.
It's kind of cute.
No! It's mental illness!
It can be both.
I'll fucking kill you!
Thief to Omega 413. Thief takes pawn. Check.
Yeesh, and you've been at this for how long?
Maybe about 4 years.
4 years? What have you even been doing there for 4 years?
I have a son. That is physical proof that I have had bitches. Thank you.
As someone who has been friends with every woman you are attempting to categorize into this, I can assure you they were not your bitches. You were theirs.
That rat bastard! We're going to show him!
Yeah, absolutely. But maybe we could do it from inside of the ship?
Oh, bro, wake up. What's up, Chief?
Good to have you back.
Today on the Dreambubble Spacecast, I've got Pantscada. Is that correct?
I think so. I've never heard it said out loud officially.
Okay, I say it like I spell it out. It's like Pantscada. Pantscada.
That's what I also do. It's actually... Do you want to know what that is?
Yes, I would love to.
A song on the Panty and Stalking album. I saw it, like, in high school. The song is highly inappropriate, but I was like, this name is cool. And I just have been using it for everything, but it's from Panty and Stalking.
That is so cool, because my username also happens to be based off of a song, kind of. LibetsDelae comes from... There was an album, or I guess multiple albums, where they kind of go through, like, people's divergence into dementia, right? So it's a song on an album where they're exploring this, like, your brain goes and fucking you lose shit in dementia and stuff. So, yeah, LibetsDelae.
That's way more interesting than mine.
But hey, they're both songs.
Mine's like a song with a hard bass and anime girls. Yeah, it's pretty deep.
I'm gonna have to give it a listen. Can you tell us a little bit about how you first were introduced into Homestuck?
Yeah, so I've been going to conventions for 12 or 13, and me and my friend went. It was literally like we just kept seeing these gray people everywhere. They were literally everywhere. And one day we just walked into a panel. It was one of those where you ask the characters questions, and we just sat through it knowing nothing about who any of these characters were. And we just kind of like turned, I think, to a Dave cosplayer, and we were like, what is this? And yeah, they were like, this is Homestuck. And then I got home and realized that so many people on DeviantArt kept posting about Homestuck, and then also Tumblr, so I kind of discovered both at the same time.
Okay. Do you remember generally, like, what year that might have been?
Maybe 2013? I think 2013.
Okay, so that was pretty much like around the peak when the fandom was kind of at its most, which makes sense. That's how you got introduced to it.
Yeah, they were literally everywhere at conventions, just like swarms. I remember a lot of people being annoyed by it, but me and my friend were just like, they look like they're having fun. I want to know what that is.
So how did you get stuck?
like get obsessed with it to the point where the brain rot won't leave.
Yes.
I think a part of it has to do with the community I built around it. Like, I don't have Facebook anymore, but when I did, like, a majority of my friends on there, like the hundreds that were on there, were all Homestuck cosplayers, who some I met for like brief couple minutes at a convention, and yet it's been like over a decade and we're still friends. Or like people I met on, like, not good that I was doing it, but I was on Omegle and stuff as a kid, because people would do that after updates, just jump on Omegle. From there, friends who I even met up with here as an adult just because of this comic. And also, the comic is so large and there's so many characters for me to be obsessed over and so many things. It's not that self-contained. So it's like, if I was obsessed with like Eridan for a month and I'm getting tired of it, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to jump to John now or to Rezi because I can, because I'm like, they're just as interesting.
And they have so much content too.
Yeah, like so much I can just keep jumping back and forth from.
So you're saying you came from a kind of like the Facebook end of things, a little bit of that. Tell me more about that. Tell me about like what the environment was like.
I lived in Florida at the time. I know, gross. But I would say that the Homestuck community in Florida was huge. It was huge. It was really cool. We all kind of shared all the same friends on Facebook and everything, because again, it was like a pretty tight-knit community a bit, and there were meetups constantly. So even if there weren't conventions, we were constantly meeting up at parks and all this stuff, you know, being embarrassing teenagers, being painted gray out in public. I wish I had that less amount of shame, going to a restaurant dressed as Garcat. What an experience. There is a photo of me in a Chinese restaurant dressed as him, and I'm like, wish I was that brave. But it was really fun, honestly. It did come with its set of drama, but I think that comes with...
And everyone being young.
Actually, it was like, when I was there, it was such a mix when I was in it. It was like a good mix of people my age, and then a lot of adults. So the age range was pretty broad, because people were also, I remember back in the day on Facebook, if you saw someone with a Homestuck profile cosplay picture, you just added them. You didn't look at anything. You were just like, oh, friend, especially if they lived in your area. You're like, friend. You like their pictures, and maybe you guys reach out to each other. It was so simple. I mean, that does have like not as good things at times, obviously, so does everything, but it was pretty simple. It was just like, oh, you like Homestuck, I like Homestuck, we're friends.
So obviously you are an amazing artist as well. I haven't seen your cosplay stuff too much. I think I saw, you sent me like a card cat once and I was like, oh wow, what the heck, that's fucking cool. But could you paint for maybe somebody who wasn't in the cosplay scene, didn't get to go to conventions at the time because they, you know, maybe weren't into it yet? Like, maybe, what was that like? What happened at those? What goes on at a convention?
I would say, especially back in the day, it was a pretty, for me personally, it was a good experience. It was really chaotic, depending on how big it was. I remember when I was at like a record-breaking meetup that was in the newspaper and something else. Like, there's this one Homestuck picture that I am in, and it goes around sometimes where it's just like, there's like hundreds of us. We're like minnows in a tin can. But it was really fun. The photo shoots were probably my favorite part, and there was obviously more panels and stuff, like lots of character ask panels, lots of Promstuck. That was a huge thing. At every convention I went to, it was almost guaranteed that there was Promstuck going on later on in the night.
So who have you cosplayed?
Oh God. when you're a broke Homestuck teenager back in the day, if you used that gray and your one black wig for everybody, that's like the other good thing about Homestuck. Every character it's borderline the same design, just a little different. I'm like, I could milk that wig, and I still have it. It is torn apart though. It is like a frail tissue at this point. But yeah, I've cosplayed Dave 100 times because he was like my go-to, because he's so easy to throw together. I cosplayed John, God tier and regular. I've cosplayed every Vantis family member. Not good. These are all when I was younger. Karkat, obviously. Eridan, I've always thrown crap together to be him, but now I'm trying to actually, as an adult, buy the proper materials, not just throw on like a purple, I don't know. But, you know, because back in the day, you could really just throw on anything and be like, I'm Terezi. Oh, Terezi, I did a lot. There was actually one time where my cosplay was on Google for a while, and it was not a fun experience. I did not like that, because that picture went around like crazy.
Did you ever do those, like, cosplay ask blogs?
I feel like I've done everyone at least one time, just to try, even if it wasn't good. I've attempted at least everyone.
So real.
I didn't, because I could not commit to doing that. I'm like, bruh, I'm not putting that crap on all the time. Like, I did do those, like, cosplay gift sets, where, because it used to be a thing where people would imitate the sprite animations with their cosplay, like make a gif with you in cosplay imitating the sprite. I did that once as Eridan, but it turns out another Eridan cosplayer did it before, and I got accused of copying them. But what's weird is I knew that Eridan cosplayer in person from a Florida meetup. They just, you know, were way better looking than me and looked better, so they like got more attention. But I was like, I didn't know it was only one person was allowed to do that.
So, I hear, like, the echoes of drama that kind of go on in the cosplay community. That being one of them, that they, like, accuse you of, like, copying each other, that, like, which doesn't make sense, in my personal opinion. I'm like, anybody could cosplay any character. There's nobody that has a claim on a character. But it seems like that's the attitude that people have had, or maybe they still have.
I don't really know if it exists anymore, because I'm not really into the whole, like, cosplay community as much. I kind of stopped doing that a little bit through high school. I know, yeah, back in the day, it was really bad, which is dumb because even as a kid, I thought that was dumb. I was like, I don't care if this person does a similar thing, you know, like, especially something like gift sets or something. I was just like, I don't know, I just think it's a cool idea, and I think it's just, understand, like, the drama behind, quote-unquote, copy.
You're just like, this is stupid. I can't even put my freaking, I don't even know how to talk about it because it's dumb. I feel the same way. I think that a lot of things in fandom kind of have to deal with that. But, I mean, you pretty much focused on, like, all the fun parts of it. So you're like, you got to be all of the fun cosplay stuff. You got to do all of, when did you start drawing? Like, how did that kind of come about? Because your art's gorgeous.
Oh, thank you. Honestly, Homestuck again. I mean, I've been drawing way before then, and this was around the time when I think my parents found out I may have had ADHD, when I got really into Invader Zim when I was like 11, right? Like, it was like I could draw all these characters from memory. I made my own Invader Zim posters, because this is when Invader Zim was not in Hot Topic anymore, because it had been off the air for a little bit. So it went from like one edgy cartoon to another, and Homestuck really made me and my friend start drawing like crazy. I actually visited home not that long ago, and my mom actually kept all my art that I attempted to throw out. Like, she dug in the trash and took it, which as an adult I'm happy about it now. But it's so funny because 90% of it is Homestuck art. It's bad, but it's a combination of me and my best friend. It's 90% Homestuck is all it is, and it's kind of funny to see it. I was like, dang.
Did you post it anywhere, or were you like on like DeviantArt or anything like that?
I was on DeviantArt, but I was more of a lurker. I felt like insecure when I started using Tumblr more, because that's when digital art became a lot more accessible. Like, everyone got their Wacom, I don't know how to say it. Everyone got their tablets and everyone was doing digital art, and me and my friend were just doodling in our notebooks. Like, we would role play while drawing. They would like draw Jade and pass me the notebook, and then I would draw Dave replying to Jade, and we would just go back and forth. There's like a whole notebook full of just that. But I never really posted anything because I was like, oh, mine are just stupid little pencil drawings.
That is so cute, though. That sounds so fun. I wish we would do that now. Why don't we do that anymore? I got a little bit of a lecture about how the old roleplay stuff used to happen back on, it was like DeviantArt a little bit, Tumblr, and that's kind of what turned into the Ask blogs. You mentioned already you have done an Ask blog. That's the one I've seen with Eridan in it. What was your experience with that like when you were doing that a little bit more frequently?
So I always wanted to do one of those Ask blogs. That was one of my favorite things, you know, and I think especially because, you know, like, I know that was a majority of what Octopimp used to do. He would voice those like Ask blog thingies, and I thought they were so fun. They were so cute. There was this other Eridan one that I can't remember, but it was they did like whole animations and all this, and I just always admired it. So I was so excited when I finally built up the courage to do it. And honestly, when did I open? Last year. I was like, was it 2 years ago or last year? I was not expecting to get any traction because my art doesn't do like insane, and also I'm like Homestuck in 2024. Who's gonna, and Eridan, who's gonna look at that? I did. I was like, oh shit, to be honest, because like at first my friend sent me a question, you know, just being a supportive buddy. They asked me about Shrek, and I was like, heck yeah. And then it just kind of tumbled, and like one thing led to another, and suddenly I am like hundreds and hundreds of questions deep, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I was so flattered, but also like the pressure started building pretty quickly. Because, you know, you want to, it's like the pressure of algorithms plus making people happy. And so I was like, I need to, you know, keep posting to be consistent. And, you know, I want to answer as many people's asks as possible. Because there were so many asks that I had ideas for, but some of them were like too ambitious. Because I'm like, I'm not going to finish this. Like, what am I thinking of doing? And, you know, in some of those ask blogs, I feel like back in the day there was also a mix of people who drew more thought out ones, and then, you know, or just drew like little stick figure replies, which is dumb because I liked both. So I'm like, why am I putting this pressure on me to do full-fledged pretty sketches and all? It needs to be funny, it needs to be that. So the pressure built up pretty high. I would still say the experience was really good. I got some weird questions, but they weren't weird towards me. They were weird towards like Eridan. I don't know how to explain that in another non-parasocial way, but like in his space, I was like, oh, that was a weird one.
Like, why are you asking me this? You wouldn't happen to have an example off the top of your head. You could go look if you wanted to, like, pull up some of them.
Oh, I have one. I got a look. Before I made the answer, I got so many questions about his gills. I was like, so many. And this one person was asking me, like, could you breathe if your gills got covered? Like, if they got duct taped and all this other stuff? And I just pictured, like, me and Eridan sitting there looking at each other with horrified faces. Like, what the hell?
What? Like, what do you mean you want to duct tape my gills? What? Like...
And a lot of Cronus. I got so many. Like, so many. Because the way I portrayed them in my Ask blog is more of like a brother type thing. Because that's how I've always seen the Dancestors. I was like, these are their siblings to me. That's just how I see it. I know they're not, but that's just how I wanted to portray it. But I drew Cronus once, and then everyone was like, can I have more? And, you know, I'm a fun gal, so I did one that was actually inspired by this scene in Adventure Time where they're putting in videotapes, and it begins with Jake laying on a carpet in front of a fireplace with a rose in his mouth, and he's like, hey, lady, you asked me to make you a video. And so I did the same thing with Cronus. I had to begin like, hey, all you cool cats and kittens, I heard that you were happy. But yeah, I thought it was really fun. I did get a couple of people being like, this is out of character for some replies I did, but I was like, I'm just trying to make it funny. If this was...
We're just here to have fun. Who cares about Canonicity.
Yeah, I was just like, I almost did reply one time to a couple of the questions saying, like, this isn't canon, and I was almost about to be like, fine, here's canon, and I was gonna draw Eridan's, like, dead body with a little fly flying on his glasses. And then flying away, be like, here he is, here's your canon Eridan. I was gonna have it be like, Eridan, what do you have to say about this? And then it was just gonna be his lifeless body. Riveting.
Isn't his body like literally okay, this is remembering off the top of my head. I think his physical body, like the one that's cut in half, was in the fridge with Gamzee, locked in with Gamzee. And then like
isn't he technically Aerosol Sprite?
Okay, in one timeline he is. He's Aerosol Sprite in the timeline before Game Over. The game, I think it's called the Game Over timeline. And then there's the like new timeline where they try to avoid all of that, the retcon timeline that John went through and like kind of did all of that. And in that one, they didn't sprite him. So like the sprites ended up turning into other things. Like they didn't sprite Eridan. So his body was just in the fridge with Gamzee. I don't know. You know?
I don't remember. I need to go back and reread it again because it's so long. I forget little key details. That was another problem with my blog is I legit did try sometimes. Like I had a whole folder of every bit of dialogue Eridan did, and if I ever included another character, usually I would also dig through their dialogue if I had to write something, because I would want to try. The only one I didn't do it for was Equius. I don't want people to hate me. He's just not my fave. I was just like, I'll just write whatever. And what's so funny is that's the one where people were like, that's not correct. And I was like, I'm sorry. It's so much work trying to read through all this.
That's interesting. So like what is this fascination, I wonder, with like everything being perfect? I don't know. It's like I love artistic interpretation. And listen, I've also been doing the Eridan thing for a while. I used to roleplay, and I took my roleplays very seriously. I feel like that's even in character for Eridan, because he used to roleplay Dual Scar. And you know that motherfucker was so serious about it. So,
right? That nerd. It's so funny to think about that realistically when any Vriska, Eridan, or any of them try to act cool. I'm like, you are LARPing in real life, you nerds, 24/7. You are cosplaying out and about. You are lame. Like, you are nerds.
It's silly. It's charming. I like it. I don't know.
But I also answered a question about that one time. Somebody was, because I kept getting questions also asking if Eridan would ever cosplay Dual Scar, and Eridan's like, I don't how a Dual Scar cosplay, and then I had him do like an anime spin or like dramatic, like he's like, I have a renowned fucking. I don't know, man. I just remember like drawing him in that, and then the next panel was all of them playing D&D. I was like, they get dressed up to play that.
That's so cute. Yeah, I don't know. I think people who point out the out-of-character things, I don't know if they fully understand either, you know, in my personal opinion. But that's so funny.
I just feel like there's just this weird, like, mentality now with needing things to be perfect or needing things to be seen the way they want it, which is weird because, you know, again, I also have had the Eridan brain rot. That's my little guy. That's my sweet cheese, my good time boy. But, you know, I never thought, even back then, when all those Ask blogs would, like, kind of make him into, like, a pathetic pervert, I'm like, it's for comedic effect. I highly doubt this person who has this whole blog who does nothing but draw Eridan all day doesn't actually like him and misunderstands him. It's for comedic effect. You're just like, let's make it dramatic. Let's put things in there. Because also, especially with Homestuck, it gives you the ability to do that, and you actually can't say whether it's canon or not, because with the existence of the Dreambubbles and all these alternate realities, I'm like, I mean, you can't really just be like, Eridan or John would never do that, because it's like, I don't know, they could. And also, it's just like, if you see an interpretation you don't like, just don't interact with it. Just be like, and move on. I've never felt the desire to tell somebody. Yes, actually, because according to the chat log, blah, 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 blah. Unless you're like a Homestuck historian, which that would be cool.
Yeah, couldn't be me. It's funny because people will do that, but then they'll be like, that's why he needs to be racist. And it's like, oh, buddy, what are you talking about? Like, why is that what's bringing you entertainment? Like, chill the fuck out.
I don't touch that shit. I'm like, ooh, that's why I did get an ask one time asking if I would ever do Homestuck, and back in the day, you could, and you really can't do it that much now, or you can. I just feel like there's so much negative discourse surrounding it, and, you know, obviously some justifiable things if somebody did obviously like stereotypes of them and all this stuff that could be problematic and stuff, obviously. You know, there's so many opinions that are so drilled into people. They're so aggressive about their opinions on it towards fan work, which I think is strange. It's not like this is official work, this isn't made for you, so I don't know why you care how somebody portrayed Vriska as a human. I think I saw that one time on Reddit. Somebody made a whole post being very upset that people were drawing Vriska with blonde hair with the blue stripe. And I'm like, yeah, it's been done 100 times, but it's because people like it. This is such a non-issue. If you don't like it, draw something else. And also, I just feel like with fantasy and reality, it can get really mucky trying to translate their classism and bigotry into our form. I just feel like sometimes it is very hard to try and make a one-to-one translation of it. I just feel like it's messy. I don't like touching it, and like it makes me think way too hard. I'm like, I don't know, the moral implications of certain things just makes me uneasy, because the entire existence of Alternia is bad. I'm like, it's like certain D&D things, like I'm not gonna think about that too hard or try to equate it to an exact translation in our reality. You know what I mean? I'm just like, Homestuck is not the thing I really care to look at.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, that's all it is. It's just like, I just don't care. But you can't say that either. People be like, ooh, what do you mean you don't care about this huge thing? This makes you a bad person. It's like, whoa. Okay, you just want to fight, you know? You just want to argue with me. I don't want any part of this. Leave me out of this.
Yeah, because also there's just like no like direct exact way any of the characters look, especially in my head. I've drawn them so differently, and I feel like I remember there being I was not in the fandom really. I don't really talk about like in the fandom, out of the fandom. I've been a fan my whole life. There's just been times where I was, on a down low on it. Specifically, I remember when Pester Quest came out. When did it come out? Like 2020?
2020. That sounds right.
Yeah, and I was on Twitter, and I remember seeing things about it, and I was like, oh, Homestuck? I haven't talked about that in forever. And I remember seeing people lose their marbles over Terezi and Pfefferi being fat. What the hell is this discourse?
And Roxy being black. Like, and then they did Rose, like, kind of more, like, I guess how you would traditionally see her from. It was pretty equal translation from the comic to that. But Roxy had a little bit more of artistic interpretation. Same thing, I think that same artist did Gamzee. And I remember that. I remember people were vicious. They were like, what do you mean? It's so crazy.
It's so stupid, because another thing is I think people, like, they don't want to hear it. Pester Quest is also fan interpretation. It's not canon either. But also, I'm just like, there's no way around it, you losing your mind over being upset over a character being black or fat. You're just fat-phobic and racist. You need to stop. And also, I'm like, this doesn't take away from how you view them. Like, if you view Terezi skinnier, you are still able to do that. And also, she does look like that in the comics. Like, it doesn't cease to exist representation in the comic isn't gonna kill you. Touch grass, take a deep breath. Fat Black Roxy is not gonna ruin your life.
So you see, this is what I think, like, people, like, feel the need to get all hyped up about, like, we're talking about the Homestuck thing and the race and stuff, is because the other side of these fans, and I'd argue that there's, like, the people who are, like, in the fandom, and they're here for the fun, and they're here for the whatever, and then there's, like, the other side who's, like, I don't know, dude, I feel like they came from the miserable forums, and then they spread everywhere. So, like, I think it's probably not really about us or about, like, any individual. It's like they make an assumption about you based on what they've seen elsewhere. I guess that's kind of why that happens.
You know what it actually reminds me of? These are the type of fans that it reminds me of. When March Eridan first came out, my God. Again, even as a kid, I was like, this is a lot. So I'm not a fan of March Eridan, but specifically his design. I don't like it. I don't think this was the artist's, it's like, haha, Eridan wearing a mini skirt and all this stuff, and he's a guy, and he's playing dress up with Kanaya. That sparked transphobia and homophobia. That's where, like, the whole sassy gay Eridan thing comes from, which is fine. But it stemmed from homophobic jokes. And I remember so much of it, which is why I personally don't like March Eridan, but just his design. I'm like, celebrating Eridan in drag or being trans, that is fine with me. My thing is, I just don't like the design because it just seems like early 2000s. Guy dressed up as girl, put him in a mini skirt and stockings. Isn't that funny?
So, funny thing about this, and this is what I've heard over the years, right, is that I guess this artist kind of, like, the art itself is generally kind of pretty unsettling, you could say. But it's still, in its own way, it's unique and it's cool, and it's like I love the different art styles. This is a whole other thing. But with this one in particular, like, this artist was kind of already infamous for this art style. So when they dropped this March Eridan, people kind of lost their minds a little bit for the art itself, but also because of, like you said, like the portrayal there, and especially the fucking things that we've seen. Like, at first, March Eridan was used to fucking bully Eridan. Like, it was not charming, it was not sweet or anything like that. No, it was 100% like, this guy's a fucking fag, like, this guy, like, sucks, like, he's all of the different things, and like they took it that way. Yeah, I used to hate it. Oh, I used to hate it. Whenever March would come around, I'd be like, fuck this, because it was right before April 13th, Homestuck Day and everything. So people, as we were ramping up into Homestuck Day, were seeing March Eridan everywhere, and it's like fucking people. Just mean. It was so mean.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't like it, but I'm glad it's... I actually checked the other day, and I still have March Eridan tag blocked on my Tumblr. It's like the only tag I have blocked, because I was just so sick of seeing the homophobic garbage. Like, I was like, guys, this is just stereotyping, and it's annoying. It's like... And again, it was just a thing to make fun of him for, but it's like, what is funny about a man dressed in these clothes? The butt joke just made me uncomfortable, and again, it just, like, inserted the idea more that Eridan is just, like, a big pervert, gross person. But recently, within the past couple of years, I think I've reclaiming it and drawing him in more appropriate clothing, and I'm like, oh, and I took the block off because I've seen some beautiful Mark Eridan fan art, so I'm like, all right, I still personally don't like it, the outfit itself, but I'm like, people drawing him in better outfits, or if they do draw him in his March outfit, but it's like, he seems happy about it, and now I'm cool. We have gone away from that early 2000s he's gay mindset. I was just like, ugh.
They do it tactfully. It's different.
No, they didn't. I blocked that out.
Oh my god. They did all of that. Then they made it canon, They put it into, I think it was the Strife. Yeah. And then they went and did that shit with Cronus. like, oh my god. Like, leave him alone. He's already dead. Like, leave him alone. What are we doing this for?
That's when I'm like the biggest hypocrite, because I'm like, LOL, I love all interpretations. Anyone can do what they want. It's not real. Remember when that happened? I'm like, no, it didn't. That's not right. That was out of character. I'm claiming it. Eridan wouldn't do that. False. You're wrong. Not really, but like, you know what I mean? I'm like, that's the one thing. I'm like, no.
Oh my god, I love that we have the same relationship to that though, because it's like, oh god. Like, when I was doing my Askbox, same thing. I was like, nope, don't ask me about Cronus. Don't ask me about Cronus. I don't want nothing to do with him. I had Cronus in my Askbox asking me questions, and I'm like, ew, don't touch me. Don't look at me. Like,
I don't mind Cronus, actually, because, I was just like, when I reread it as an adult, I was like, oh my god, he's so much worse than what I remember, dog. But it was so bad that it was almost funny. He almost feels like a parody of fandom Eridan to me. That's kind of how I was reading a lot of the Dancestors. It's like stereotypes that the fandom rolled with, that Hussey noticed and was like, okay, if you guys really think Eridan is like that, here it is personified into the worst person, if you really think. But, that's just speculation. I think Cronus is also, like, every Dancestor is an internet person that Hussey's making fun of. But Cronus, to me, felt like fandom Eridan personified into an older version of himself, and it's, like, so gross to look at. But also, Cronus sucks so hard, but he makes me laugh. I'm like...
Well, okay... It's so shitty, right? Because of, like, look what fandom did to Eridan. But then look what fandom did to Cronus. Cronus is so charming in fanon. Like, why did you make him so funny and lovable?
Alright, James Dean, and big muscles, and, like, a hot greaser. What happened? It's the same with Kankri. It's like these awful characters, and they just kind of watered them down. But I'm not gonna lie, I don't really mind. I just think it's funny, and also, it is the same character. It's just like kind of watering down some of their more shitty traits. It's like, the entire South Park fandom. They're like, and it's still the same character, but they sucked a little less. But Cronus is just, to me, I know it's horrible, but I'm just like, yeah, he's gross, nasty man. But it's so funny to me to picture Eridan and Cronus as roommates or something, and Cronus lives on his couch and won't leave. That's how I portrayed them in my blog, or I didn't say that specifically, but in my head, I'm like, they are siblings, kind of, and Cronus lives on his couch and won't leave because he's waiting for his music career to blow up, and it's never gonna. Because that's another thing, I feel like people forget Cronus makes music. He made my favorite Homestuck song, which is Pumpkin Party and See Hitler's Water Apocalypse. That was Cronus's song.
Okay, so when I was going through that section, I had done it through Voxus the first time, and I haven't gone through and actually played the game. Obviously, I don't even think you can anymore, it's the Flash situation. But that like blows my mind a little bit, because I didn't realize that the songs that he plays were actual songs.
I don't know if all of them are, but I know that one is his. And I was like, damn you. I have listened to that song since high school. What do you mean this pervert made it? I mean, technically, I might have been Toby Fox, but it's attached to Cronus's name. Because it's one of the ones where Cronus is showing Nina songs, and a lot of them are, like, disgusting. They're like the titles are like, I want to rub up on your body. Hey girl, what's your shell number? And then there's just that one random one.
Thinking of Cronus now, and I'm just like, oh, Cronus. Oh, Cronus. But it's funny, though, because, like, the Cronkery, like, fanon Cronkery was, like, kind of my ship.
Dude, no, it goes hard. I don't...
Go. No,
I was just gonna say, I'm like, I know, like... I see a lot of times, especially now, with people being like, why did people romanticize that? It was actually like this, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, that is still the joy of fandom, is being able, again, to take these characters and just mildly change things. Like, they still have the same personality traits, still these things, but it's just like, take away some aspects of it. And I see like so many things with like Cronus and Kankri. I think people don't like it now for some reason, but I don't really get it. Kankri sucks so hard.
Oh, they deserve each other.
Yeah, I'm like, what's wrong with these two terrible people smooching? Or I think it had to do with like Kankri not liking being touched. But
celibacy. He said he was celibate.
yeah, but also he's like a liar because he's like indirectly in love with Latula and just talking to her about it and being like talking about like how she smells and all this, and I'm like, okay, yeah, so he's a hypocrite. Be like blowing some virtue whistle. That's like his thing. But I feel like that went over some people's heads and they just made him into this sensitive little baby, even though like he is such an asshole. He is so passive-aggressively mean. He just sucks, man. Like, Pinkery sucks. I love him so much.
I mean, the same can go for Matuna, because Matuna was kind of like the embodiment of like 4chaners, right? Like, he was just saying slurs, he was like typing in fucking neat speak, like, but to lies, Matuna, to being like sweet baby, precious, fluffy hair, and it's cute! He's cute!
That's the same thing with Caliborn. Like, yeah, like Caliborn, people also just make him into like a cute little grumpy kid, and I'm like, he is 4chan embodied. Like, he is the embodiment of every person that sucks on the internet. And I think that was their point with the counterparts of Caliborn and Calliope. I'm like, Calliope is, you know, the very quote-unquote like fun fan, like likes making fan art, likes talking about shipping, likes doing all these things. Like, she has her own issues, but I'm like, they're like just two different sides of the internet. She's on Tumblr, he's on 4chan. Like, I think that's how I read it. But even then, I don't really take it that seriously when people like baby him or Matuna. I'm like, it's not that serious. It doesn't take away from how they actually are in the comics. And, you know, there's also plenty of fan art of things being portrayed more accurately. So I'm like, you know, people do what they want.
Do whatever you want. I think, you know what, I'm on the same boat. I agree. I think that it's totally fine. I just think it's ironic that the same people who are infantilizing Matuna were also being like, Cronus isn't being shitty enough in your interpretation. It's just like, okay.
I'm not gonna treat Matuna like the poorest little baby victim because of that, when he's going around calling people cum sluts and fat bitches. Like, I'm not, guys.
The Dance Masters are interesting because one of my favorite interpretations of them is that their world on Beforus was actually really nice. It was actually really lovely. Pfeffery was ruling it. We probably had Eridan out there. But all of them. So the society, I mean, at worst, maybe it was kind of like a democracy, and it's kind of where we're at now, and maybe it wasn't the best, but it also wasn't, I don't know. But like these Beforean trolls, you know, like they were complaining, you know, about it. You know, they didn't fit in because I think that they had Alternian blood was the way that the people see it there. So they were like kind of more violent and crazy, and fucking everyone around them was like, what the fuck is wrong with these guys? So they were outcasts for that reason. So then when they played the game and they destroyed the world, you know, and then they had to like scratch and everything that happened with their session. Like, a theme that's going on in Homestuck is that like these scratches and things like that is like, it's teaching us that the characters' lives have to be like harder for them to be able to like get stronger to be able to make it through the game. So each scratch kind of made the game harder, made things harder. Like, we kind of see beta kids playing, they scratched and then created the alpha kids timeline. Like, I like to imagine that the Beforean trolls were just, they're pansies, they're babies, you know, they played the game because they didn't like the people around them, and they made a worse reality for it, which kind of just solidifies even more how shitty they were. Like,
yeah, they suck. Like, when they're like miserable to think about. Like, when I reread it and I played the game again for the first time in like years, I was like, dude, I would hate my friend group if these were the only people I was surrounded with. No wonder everyone just died. Like, there is no unity here.
Dude, Damara went crazy. She went crazy because what they were kind of framing out with her story was that she was kind of like a sweetheart angel. She just watched anime with Rufio, and he fucking drove her crazy because he fucking cheated on her.
Yeah, Rufio sucked. He's another... When I was looking, and you know, I'm a victim of this too, and I didn't remember, but I am, apparently, when I looked through my old sketchbooks that I brought back from home, it is covered in, like, me and my friend drawing Horace and Rufio as, like, adorable little chibis. Like,
oh,
dude, also, this is another thing, Horace does not get the hate he deserves for being a bigot. I'm like, if we're gonna hold these characters to this standard, that man said things that made me pause. I was like, this is the guy that we're like treating like a baby? He just called people like, he's like, yeah, I can't believe I used to hang out with those disgusting mustard bloods.
So I know your ask box and everything has been kind of more recent. You said like within the last year. What was your, like, what were you doing in Homestuck before that? Like you said you were just like looking at things online, like the videos and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, I started getting out of engaging with it kind of around when it actually was ending in like 2016, because it took so long, dude. It was so long. And there was all that stuff about the Kickstarter, and I remember being wishy-washy about that because I kept hearing things about people not receiving things, or just like all these weird things that kept going around. Yeah, it just took so long for the comic to be updating, and you know, people lost interest. It wasn't like other updates, because it used to also be a trend, or at least my side of Tumblr, where when the comic was taking a small hiatus, we would all be like, okay guys, we're all gonna get into off for a little bit and then we're gonna jump back in. Okay, I'm into free for a little bit. Okay, we're all into dramatical murder. Okay, now let's jump back in, a new update. And it used to be like that. But then, you know, the updates just started taking longer and longer, and also the quality of the writing went down really badly too. And so people were like, ugh, well, I don't want to read this. And you know, I was also one of those people. I was just like, this is taking so freaking long. Like, it was really annoying wanting updates of the actual story, and I'm just getting Caliborn and his shitty little drawings, and it was never ending of Homestuck. As an adult now, I really liked it because it's funny.
Well, at the time, you were so interested in the trolls, and you were so interested in all of the fandom, like, hyped things, you could say. Because I know I was around that time too. I remember that. And then everybody was like, you know, they're not getting their screen time of your favorite character, so it was like, okay, like, whatever.
Right? I was already running dry for a long time of mine, so I was like, come on, man, just give me some Karkat and Terezi, please, I am begging you.
They were one of the Homestuck artists. They did, like, the Briscogram stuff, I know canonically, but they were pretty, like, popular within fandom a little bit.
Were they really into Terezi, like Karkat and Terezi? And then they were forced to make Dave Cat canon? Oh god, I think about that every day.
They crashed out.
You poor creature, because they just drew Karkat and Terezi so much, and then they get hired to canonize Karkat and Dave.
Oh, that was... And then they did, like, a little, like, picture afterwards where it was, like, Karkat in the middle of holding Terezi's hand and holding Dave's hand, and it's like, oh, you poor thing. Like, that was vicious. Sometimes I just feel like sometimes they're so vicious with this.
That was, like, another thing, is people lost their minds when Karkat and Dave became canon. That sucked too. Like, so many people were like viciously homophobic about it, holding on to any grasp of, well, no, that could have been platonic, well, no, that could have been this. Actually, because Karkat's an alien, does that even mean gay or straight? Because I remember people losing their minds over it, and I was like, this is not that serious. Ironically, so the epilogues was actually when I started getting back into Homestuck in like 2023, 2024. That was the first thing I read. I was like, huh, what's this? And I read it. I have mixed opinions about it because as a story, there's some aspect I like and I dislike, obviously. I respect more about what it was trying to be, what Hussey was trying to get across, and that made me like it more when I kind of realized that was the point of it, was Hussey trying to challenge their fan base into critical thinking and really making them question why they don't like certain things and what is the, like, emotional impact of it. Like I'm trying to think of a better way to explain it, but it was kind of like, well, who's to say like this couldn't happen? And also, if this does happen, does this make the story, if you don't like something, does that necessarily make it bad? Because you see like John in a certain light. If he does this thing, does that make it bad? Does that mean it's written wrong if it's not written the way you want it to be written?
And I really respected that. I was like, okay, yeah, with current fandom behavior and everything Hussey has ever dealt with from the fan base, I'm like, yeah, I kind of get writing something that insane and publishing it. Yeah, certain things I am like, I don't think this would happen, but at the same time, I can't say that because, you know, I can't. And again, certain things I do like, certain things I don't. I don't think it ruined any character because I'm just like, whatever. I was just like, ew. Like anything about Gamzee, I was just like, gross. And then I moved on. I was like, this is weird. What was it? It was like Gamzee made Eridan hug Pfeffery or something, and it was like viscerally uncomfortable or something.
Eridan was in it for 2 seconds, and it was a kiss, yeah. He was just like, we gotta make up, you gotta make up for, apologize, and yeah.
Oh, ew, I thought it was a hug. No, like that. See, that's really weird because to me, I'm like my personal opinion, I'm like, I don't think Eridan would do that because I'm like, again, I don't think he's that perverted. Like, I'm like, yeah, he's emotionally overbearing, but he's not like throwing his body on people. He's just kind of being a teenager and being like, unblock me. Unblock me so I can yell at you.
Yeah, same. I got the physical copy, though same thing. It's like I got mixed opinions. I have obviously the one character that I'm like, this is the character, and then I've absolutely read Homestuck. I care about all the other characters, of course. But Eridan only shows up for those few lines, and they did it wrong, so I don't like that.
Yeah, no, it was funny because this was before when I was rereading Homestuck, I'm not gonna lie, I was really hoping Eridan wouldn't be my favorite anymore. I'd be like, maybe my taste has improved. No, it was worse. I was like, oh no, I have an even better appreciation for him now as an adult because I can understand the writing better. Because not gonna lie, as a kid, a lot of Homestuck's writing went over my head. The way Hussey writes, their vocabulary is insane. I'm like, bro, there is no way my 14-year-old ADHD-ridden ass absorbed all of this. I'm like, this is why a lot of fan interpretations were probably wrong, because people were skimming it and watching Octopimp and stuff. But reading it now as an adult, I definitely had a better appreciation for it. So when I reread it, I was like, maybe I'll like someone else. And then I'm like, nope, it's still this one. I can't escape. But yeah, it was kind of a bummer. It's being like, oh, the one character I like who's already treated like garbage. All right, let's dig this hole deeper and throw him in there and spit on it.
You know, that's something that's really interesting about everybody that, I talk to about Eridan. Because I'll be like, yeah, this is my favorite character. I understand what this says about me. I understand, what you think about that and that you don't like. I get it. I'm so used to people just, oh my god, he's a horrible person. Do you know? Did you forget? He's a horrible person. And I'm like, okay, alright. Alright, you're right. Whatever you believe, Yeah, it's funny because, when I talk about him, and I show there's a fucking spider in here. What the hell? You're interrupting me! People don't like Eridan. I understand that they don't like Eridan. I tell them that I love Eridan anyway, bro. I love Eridan. He's so funny. I think he's just misunderstood, and I think that he knows that he's misunderstood. It bothers him a lot, and he tries to mask, and he tries to do the right thing. He tries to do what he's told to do because he's trying to escape from this perception that people have of him. I have so many opinions about that. It's not until people are exposed to my interpretation and then they reread the comic that they're like, oh, Eridan wasn't that bad. Why did people hate him so much?
That was kind of my thing as when I reread it too. I was like, who was this character I was obsessing over when I was younger? Or the character I was absorbing through fan content? Because I'm like, this is a different bitch. This is a different guy. Who the hell?
Let's see. Before the big Eridan debate, What are some of the most memorable projects or creators that inspired you? And if you say Octopimp, you're cheating.
No, I'm so bad with names. God. I remember her Bleak Squeak. Been obsessed with Bleak Squeak. She's on Tumblr. Oh God, for so long. She worked on Homestuck. She did a lot of like insane painting work for them and character design and all of this stuff. She's an insane artist. She's such a huge inspiration for me and has been for so long. I wish I could remember that one Eridan Ask blog.
I remember sending it to you though. It was like Ask That Prince or something like that.
Papers Everywhere. I remember that was their username. Their art was insane. I think they also officially worked on the comic at some point. That was really nice also, seeing all these fan artists who I was like, you know, they were just normal people working and, you know, doing fan art on the side. Yeah, and then eventually they get picked up from the actual comic and did official work, which I think was so inspiring and really cute. Toasty Hat, if that is still their username, the icon who did Mambo stuff and like the Ancestor video. And they are also why Cronus is seen hot, because they did that dancing one of him with Manicure and Lady Gaga. I'm blaming them, sole responsibility for making people think Cronus was hot. Yeah, I'm not subtle. There were so many Homestuck artists back in the day that I was obsessed with. Whole wall in my room when I was younger of just Homestuck. Like my parents said if I bought my own ink, I could use the printer like crazy. And so I did. I saved up money and I bought printer ink and I covered my entire wall with Homestuck fan art and Homestuck cosplays.